Okay, awesome. Okay, so welcome to the training in regards to the Career Growth Initiative. So that's going to be the focus of our conversation today. Let me give you guys a little history on what the Career Growth Initiative is. So a little over 5 years ago, we launched what was called the Growth Initiative, so different than the Career Growth Initiative. We launched the Growth Initiative within Keller Williams as a company with the leadership within the organization about how to grow the company. At that time, Keller Williams was a really good real estate company. We were not number one at the time, but getting clarity on not only what our goals were and what that would look like to be number one, is we got clarity on what are the activities that if we focus and measure the daily activities will drive the results we're looking for. So the Growth Initiative is what drove Keller Williams from a really good real estate brokerage to the number one real estate company in the world, is just getting focused on the right activities. Then we took that same model and started what's called the Career Growth Initiative. So for short within our organization, if you hear anybody talking about the CGI, it's short for the Career Growth Initiative. And that, just to give you an idea, the Growth Initiative for Keller Williams International helped us more than 5 times the profitability of the company within those 5 years. And we're finding the agents that follow the model and really focus and lean into the Career Growth Initiative are seeing monster gains in their personal businesses of helping them grow to the next level. So there's going to be 2 elements to our conversation as we talk about what's called the 4 conversations. Primarily, I'm going to talk about how we present those 4 conversations to the agents and what that looks like. But as part of the leadership team, we need to understand the 4 conversations as it pertains to the leadership of the office. But we also need to understand the 4 conversations as it relates to an agent's business. Because when we're meeting as a leadership team and talking about our goals and our growth, we're going to be talking about the Growth Initiative and the 4 conversations specific to growth of the office. But while when we're training and coaching our agents, we talk about the Career Growth Initiative, which is more specific to helping them grow their business. Okay, does that make sense? I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah.
So let me show you a couple things. I'm going to share my screen. And before I walk you through what the 4 conversations look like, I am going to show you where we find this and the pieces of it within Keller Williams website at MyKW. So let me arrange some things here. So from the MyKW page, which is the page where everyone logs into MyKW, under, we have to get to KW Connect, so we go to the Education tab. And then under the Education tab, this is where we access everything within, from an educational standpoint for Keller Williams. So the nice thing about it, if you come here, our agents can search things like how to do a listing presentation or door knocking scripts or whatever it is. They can either ask Kelly through the artificial intelligence tool, or they can come here, type it in, and find all the resources available. For us, for our conversation today, we're going to focus on, let me close this. We're going to focus on the Growth tab. So notice underneath the Growth tab, there's the Career Growth Initiative, which is the agent-focused conversation. And then there's the Growth Initiative, which will show up on your MyKW because it's focused on the leadership side. The Growth Initiative talks about the tools that are available from for our leadership team in growing the office. So let's go to the Career Growth Initiative tab. And this is really a great place for our agents to go to learn more about the tools that are available in their business. So inside of this tab, there's a lot of resources for them to plug into. Like here's a little video about the 4th quarter kickoff. So a game plan of really how to capitalize on their 4th quarter. As we input their, and I'm going to show you how to do this here in a second, as they input their Career Growth Initiative goals, they can come in here and they can actually track the number of listing appointments they have, and it tracks their goals for them within the system. But most importantly is understanding the model. So as you come down here, let me actually flip to, see if I can flip to this real quick so I can draw some notes for us. So can you guys see my iPad okay? Is that showing up?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, awesome. So let's kind of walk through this together. So on this first graph, the one at the top, so these are two separate documents. We'll talk about this lower one in a second. This top one illustrates what are the career growth initiative tools and how this works for our people. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 specific tools relating to our people. So we're not going to jump into all of them today, but I'm just going to kind of show you the flow of how they work, and more importantly, how to have the conversation with our people. And we train on these tools regularly with our agents of how to implement them, and we generally break them down one tool at a time to help them better understand them. So the one that you're going to be most associated with is this first one called the listing management tool. Now, the listing management tool really is where we input and establish that agent's goal. So a lot of times we call this the CGI calculator. Now, I'll kind of give you an overview of what all these are, and then I'll show you the application of them. So the CGI calculator is once a new agent joins our office, one of the first things that we do as part of the onboarding process is we get clarity on their goals. And a lot of that's tied into what is their income goal, and then we work it backwards using the 4 conversations, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But then we take that information and put it into the Career Growth Initiative calculator so that our whole team knows that agent's goals, so we can track the goals with them. Because what we don't want to do is have an agent join our company that, we tell them to go set their goals, but we never know what those goals are, and we never check in on those goals. It's important for us to check in on those goals regularly, and to check in on those goals, we need to know what they are. You can see it kind of splits here 2 different directions. You can see the arrows are kind of show the flow of this. So across the top would be, the next one would be listings monthly. So we're not going to talk about that tool today, but just to give you an idea of what that tool is at the end of every month, we teach our agents how to have a business conversation of where they are in relation to their goals and what activities need to change. Now, the listing monthly worksheet will take them through and help them recalibrate their goals to get back on track if they're behind on their goals. So it's a quick little math equation to help them say, okay, well, if my goal was 4 listings in September and I only took 2, what has to change in October, November, December for me to get back on track before the end of the year? So it's just a quick little math equation, and we'll teach you about that. The pipeline is another tool of tracking an agent's pipeline of all the people they're working with. I've got a whole video in the fundamentals, which will be part of your training, to watch that training to understand how we teach agents how to use their pipeline tool. The value piece, which you can see there's really light lines here to each one of these. These are how we portray our value in the market. So number 1 is the agent trend report, which, as you recall, at the end of the after transmittal meeting, we went over the lore, the language of real estate, and identified how are we performing against ourselves. And then the second language of real estate, or lore report, shows how are we comparing against the market. So the agent trend report is something that we create for the agents every single month. I've got a full fundamental video that talks about the agent trend report, so an agent can say, okay, well, this September I took 7 listings, and this graph will show them last September I took 8 listings. So what happened last September that I was able to take 1 more listing than this year? And it's a tool that we fill out for our people that's already pre-done. They just need to know where it is and how to use it. So part of the follow-up to this is going to be you watching the fundamental video in relation to the pipeline and the agent trend report. And I'm going to show you what the lore report looks like here in a second, which is this lore report and the local expert tool. I'll show you both of those. So before you can have an understanding of how to utilize those tools, I want to show you the basic fundamental of the Career Growth Initiative. So this is what's called the 4 conversations. And this is the thing I love about the simplicity of the 4 conversations is 99% of the time that an agent will come ask you a question, or ask a question like, hey, I'm thinking about this new marketing idea that I want to put some money into, want to get some feedback on this or that. Almost always my answer will be, awesome, I can't wait to talk about it. Where are you at with your 4 conversations? because normally they want to create issues and talk about problems that really have it isn't worth the energy talking about those things because they're not doing the daily activities. So this really is the simplest form of us keeping track of what are the activities we need to be focusing on and helping our people stay focused on what's called the 4 conversations. So when we're setting, I'm gonna do this in 2 different ways. One, I'm gonna kind of role play what the conversation looks like with an agent when I'm establishing their 4 conversations. And then I'm going to show you kind of how we can utilize this same tool when we're following up with an agent. So this is something that this PDF I have really accessible on my computer, because if I'm meeting with an agent that I don't know what their goals are, I'm taking this sheet with me, because that way I can within a couple minutes, and I'll show you how I'm going to role play it out for you, how I can get clarity on what they need to be focusing on. So you can see on here, these are the 4 conversations. So 1, 2, 3, 4. When I'm setting up someone's goals, I always start from right to left. But when we're focusing on the activities, we always talk left to right. So let me give you an example of this. So when I meet with an agent let's pretend we're meeting with a newer agent in the business, and we ask the question, okay, what would a financial win look like for you your first year in real estate? The most common answer I get is $100,000, okay? So I'm gonna say, awesome. We put in $100,000 in the goal box. That is their goal, to make $100,000 in real estate. Now, in a meeting when I'm sitting down with someone, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper on some of these and slow down, and I'm gonna ask questions like, tell me why that's important to you. What would that do for you and your family if you were able to make $100,000 next year? How is it gonna feel to you if you get to the end of the year and you've only made $40,000? What does that conversation look like with your family? That you had a goal to make 100,000 and you only made 40,000. So I'm trying to create an emotional tie to it. And a lot of times what happens is people say, oh, I want to make $100,000. And then I'll ask the question like, so would you feel like it's still a win for you to make $80,000? They're like, well, yeah, that would still be good. Well, so you're going to be okay with making $80,000, but you're setting the goal of $100,000. So I'm just trying to get a clarity of like what their minimum standard is as a relation to their goal. So then I asked the question, okay, what has to happen for you to make $100,000? And the answer is obviously very simple, is they have to sell a certain number of properties. So we're going to move from conversation 1 to conversation 2 by figuring out how many closings they have to do in order to make $100,000. So the simple math on this is I take the $100,000. I've got my calculator out. I'm not doing this math in my head. $100,000. And then I'm going to divide that by 3%. So basically saying, okay, so to help you understand, we have to sell $3.3 million worth of real estate for you to make $100,000 at a 3% commission. And then we need to figure out now how many houses that takes to sell to make $100,000. Now this one varies a little bit because it depends on the price of the house. So a couple of questions I'm going to be asking is, hey, help me understand what's the average price of the home in the neighborhood you live in, because more than likely the majority of your clients are going to be people that are kind of in your same stage of life. So a lot of times they'll be like, oh, the houses in my neighborhood are $350,000, or sometimes they're like, well, I work with a lot of first-time home buyers, or whatever it is. We can adjust it, or we can go off the industry standard or the norm in Weimar-Davis County, which is about $285,000. So let's do that. Let's say, okay, so at $285,000 average price, 3.3 million divided by 285,000. Is 11.69 homes. So we have to close on 12 homes at 285,000 to make $100,000. And then I'm always verifying, does that make sense to you? How do you feel about closing on 12 homes a year? 12 homes a year. That's 1 a month. Most times they're like, that seems doable. Then I don't really spend any time on the wall of value in this conversation, but the wall of value really is about what value do we bring to the table? What is our unique value proposition, and how do we tell that story? Because it does no good for our agents to have these great statistics and a great story. If they're not out telling the story, it doesn't exist. So we do a lot of trainings with our people about how to go tell that story. One, recognize what the story is, how to put together the evidence, and how to go tell that story. But for this conversation, we're going to go straight from the second conversation now to the third conversation. So we went from profit to the number of closings. Now we're going to focus on the number of listings taken. So the reason we talk about listings taken here, because there's really two opportunities to make income as a real estate agent. Number one is taking listings, and the second one is representing buyers in acquisition. So we know that listings, you're worth more per hour handling a listing than you are working with a buyer. So here's kind of how I run this piece. If they're putting together a bigger game plan where they're looking to do, 20, really anything more than like 15 or 20 transactions a year, then I leave this as listings taken. If their goal is to do less than 12 transactions a year, 15 transactions a year, I change this to contracts taken instead of listings taken, just because at that point they're going to work their sphere the same, and it doesn't matter whether it's a buyer that raises their hand or a seller that raises their hand. The process is going to be the same. But for them to get to the next level at some point, we got to make sure that our lead sources and our business strategies are really focused on taking listings, knowing that if we have the listings, the buyers are going to show up because the listings are going to attract the buyers. Does that make sense? So here, for us to figure out in this scenario with 12 closings, we need to figure out, well, how many contracts do I have to get signed for me to close 12? Because there's some attrition in our business, or some listings that are taken, or some buyers that sign an agreement with you that end up not being able to buy, or not finding the house they want, or they overlisted the property and it doesn't sell, or they decided to stay. So right now, the average in our market for listings is 82% of listings actually are selling in our market, which is a surprise to a lot of the general public because they think 100% of houses listed are selling right now because our market's so hot. But even in a hot market, only 82% of homes listed are selling. And then a lot of buyers are getting frustrated because they're going out and there's multiple offers on the properties, and at some point they're giving up and going back to renting. So as a general rule of thumb, I'd run this at a 75%. So I'd take 12 divided by 0.75, and that would give us 16 signed contracts. So now we look at that and say, okay, if we get 16 signed contracts, either listings or buyer agreements, we can have confidence that 12 of those 16s are actually going to close. And if those ones close, then if 12 of them close, then we're going to make $100,000 in gross commission income. Okay, so you can start to see how simple these conversations are and how one leads to the next. So we know to make $100,000, we got to sell 12 homes. For us to sell 12 homes, we have to get 16 contracts taken. So now we move to the fourth conversation, which is listing appointments, or in this case, just appointments. How many appointments do I need to go on for me to get 16 contracts signed? So an appointment would actually be not just a conversation, but an appointment would be they've agreed to have me come, give my value proposition, and I'm going to directly ask them at that point to sign a contract, whether it's a listing agreement or a buyer agency agreement. So again, this varies a lot depending on the agent's lead source, which we'll go into at a deeper level in the business consultation with them. But for simplicity's sake, for the majority of our agents their goals are somewhere around 12 to 30 transactions, we can go off some norms here. And what we're going to do is we're going to teach them to track their numbers so that after their first year with KW, we've taught them to track their numbers so well that we can accurately predict their business because we've trained them. They're going to know exactly how many conversations they have to convert to appointments and what is their actual conversion rate on an appointment to a listing taken. And they'll have their statistics because we'll teach them how to do that. But most of the agents that join us have never tracked their numbers before. So this is the tool to help us set that up simply. So someone that's going to be looking to sell 12 deals a year is most likely going to be working mostly with their sphere of influence, which their conversion rate is going to be a little bit higher. If they're going to do a lot of circle prospecting or cold calling, their conversion rate is going to be much lower. So for this scenario, and the majority of the agents kind of in this world, I do 16 signed contracts divided by 60% would give us 27 appointments. So 27 appointments to take 16 contracts, to close 12 units to make $100,000 a year. Now to help break this down for the agent, I'll take the 27 divided by 12 and say all you have to figure out to go on is 2.25 appointments per month. And the thing I like about this is generally speaking, by the time you've worked this backwards with the agent, they're like, all I've got to go on is a little over 2 appointments a month. What am I going to do with the rest of my time? And then this naturally leads in. This is in the MREA model, which is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent model, which is the book that we train on and the model we train on. This is really what's called the economic model, which is the first of 4 models in the book. The second model, which is called the lead generation model, now becomes who. Like, I know that I've got to go on 27 appointments, but now who am I going to be meeting with? What does that conversation look like? Which would naturally lead the conversation to the lead generation model for us teaching them, well, how do I now go have the conversations and who am I having the conversations with that will enable me to have these appointments? And all that will come with a business plan, but particularly for setting the CGI goals, this is as far as we need to take them through the process to get clarity on 27 appointments, 16 contracts signed. If we do those things, we can have confidence that 12 closings will show up and $100,000 in gross commission income. So it's really simple. Now, let me show you how to utilize these top boxes, because if we have our agents have these goals outlined, and as you walk around some of our agents' offices, a lot of our agents have these hung up on their wall with their monthly goals in them. And then those agents that are in the productivity coaching program, we have the scoreboard built for them in a spreadsheet where they're updating them daily, and we're tracking these numbers with them daily. Not only these 4 conversations, but we're also tracking the number of conversations they're having daily for the agents that really want to plug into that productivity coaching program. So now the idea behind this would be, now we know what the goals are. So what we just outlined was the monthly goals. I usually go through here and break them into monthly goals as well. That's just dividing all the numbers by 12. So 8,333. This would be 1 per month. 16 divided by 12 is like 1.5 a month. And then 27 is 2.25. So then we can go actually up here. And the way most of our agents use this top section is as we track this, well, when we set the goals, we went from right to left. When we report numbers, we're going left to right. So here, as the agents are having appointments, all they would need to do is start just tallying these up here, right? If they had 2 or 1 or 3 or whatever it is, and then they could tally these across as they're having them, so we can instantly see where they're at. So this is what's, as part of the career growth initiative, this is step 1. A lot of our agents, they think this is the career growth initiative in its entirety, but this is just a portion of it, and we commonly refer to it as the 4 conversations. Does that spark any questions in relation to the 4 conversations, Kara?
Sorry, we were on mute. No, I don't think so right now.
Do you feel like that makes sense, the process of that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. It's a pretty simple model, but it's a powerful model. One of the things I've noticed is the more agents try to complicate this business, the more they sit there and seem busy and work on things without focusing on the most important activity. And just to give you an idea from a coaching perspective, my favorite thing about this is at the end of the month, if I noticed they had the conversations, they had the appointments, but they didn't take the contracts, I instantly know that I need to coach on them on being better at their appointments and closing in the appointment. If they had the conversations but didn't get the appointments, I know we need to work on lead sources and value propositions in lead generation. If they're getting the appointments, getting the contracts, but they're not closing, then we need to coach them on their marketing strategies. So real simply and really quickly, I can tell exactly what that agent needs to be, what they need to be coached on just from the 4 conversations, which is pretty powerful. Let me scroll down to, hope this next piece didn't show up. So let's flip back to this piece. Hold on one second. So back in the system here, you can see once we get the agent's goal put together, I'll now show you how we go into the Career Growth Initiative tool and put that agent's goals into the system. So once we've put the agent's goals into the system, their dashboard is going to show up like this when they log into their MyKW. So under the Career Growth Initiative tab, at the bottom of this box here, it says view full CGI calculator. So if you go to the CGI calculator, and this is one of the tasks that's part of the onboarding process, is taking the agent's goals and putting them into the Career Growth Initiative. Now, one of the things I'll mention that's important for both the MCAs and the ASCs to know is, even though that's part of the onboarding process, is to take that agent's goals and put them in the system, we used to actually sit down with the agent and do their goals with them in the CGI calculator. And there's a lot of offices across the country that still do it that way. I don't love doing it that way, and I'd recommend just doing the 4 conversations with them and then going into the system and plugging their goals in for them, for 2 reasons. Number one is this feels like a longer process because it asks some questions that a lot of agents aren't prepared to think about, as far as like, what's your tax rate and how much money are you setting aside to run your business, which we'll have those conversations with them as we can teach them to start thinking like a business owner. And the second piece of this is, as the KW command is coming out, and a couple other pieces of technology, is all of the CGI calculator is going to be incorporated into their CRM. So it won't be a separate piece for them to come in. So right now, the team leader generally will have the 4 conversation with the new agent or agent that joined our company. If it's a brand new agent, generally it will be the MCA or the ASC having that conversation with them. And then I'll just take that sheet of paper with the 4 conversations on it, and then we'll come in here and upload their goals into the system. So in here, you would have the ability to set the goal for the agent, which is, for here, I'm signed in as me, so it will be telling me to set my goal, which I use this as an example all the time. But real quickly, we can plug this in, and it's really easy to overthink this the way it's set up now. But I just want to run off those 4 conversations so that we have the goals sit in the system. Because one of the things that we track and Keller Williams tracks is what percentage of our agents have their Career Growth Initiative tool goals in the system. So it's really critical we take the 4 conversations and then we input them into the system. So here we can say, show that our GCI goal was 100,000. I'm just going off the numbers we had on our 4 conversations we just built. A lot of these things I just leave as they're predetermined. The tax rate of 10%, our royalty is 3,000, our company dollar is 15,000. And then we can look at this and say, yeah, there's probably about a monthly expense of about $1,000. So a lot of these are already pre-populated in, and we just leave them standard as they are. A lot of the things like additional means and things like that you can leave off unless you're sitting down with an agent. It's like, no, I'm on a team and I get paid a salary as well as a commission. It gets a little complicated that way, but for right now, because we're shifting the system, we're going to keep this as simple as possible as far as just what is their GCI, what is their royalty, what is their cap or company dollar, and a simple thing of it. For most agents, it costs about $1,000 a month between an agent that's doing 12 transactions or about that a year, between their car, their MLS dues, all of that. So we can come down and say, okay, well, and all these are predetermined or pre-filled in again. 3% commission. They're going to get 100% of their commission after the company dollar because they're not on a team or splitting or anything like that. We put in the average price of a home at $285. And then seller focused. Again, if I was working on a bigger game plan with someone that was like trying to do 50 transactions, then this becomes more critical to say, okay, well, of those 50 transactions, how many of them are going to be seller focused? But right now, since they're a smaller gold agent, we're just going to say, hey, we're going to treat them all the same. So 100%, we're going to call 100% of them seller focused because we're going to treat all of them the same. And then we put in the conversion rate on listings, and the conversion rate here, we're going to put in a 60% to match what we did. Then we can hit submit. And then that agent's goals are in the system. So it's that easy, and then they can come in here and look at them a little closer. But the important thing is now they have their scoreboard built in the system. When they come back here, to where all they have to do is update the number of appointments they went on using these boxes, and everything else will be auto calculated. So the nice thing about this is, as you process checks as the MCA, or you input a listing through our VAs, saying they got a listing, they got it in the system, so we've recorded it on our side, it's automatically updated. So the number of listings they take, they don't have to put those in, because as we enter them into Winmore, they all show up here. Same thing with closings, is it will automatically show how much GCI they made that month, how many closings they had that month, how many listings they took the previous month. So it auto calculates all of this, that the only thing they need to track is how many appointments they go on, because we don't have a way to track that internally. So that way it's pretty slick that at any time they can come in and see where they're at with their scoreboard. And this is all going to be incorporated into their CRM over the next month or so as KW Command is fully released. Any questions on that?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. So the first couple times you do that will feel clunky, and you'll feel like, oh, what about these questions? We'll do the first couple together if we need to, where it's more important that it's accurate on the 4 conversations, and then it's just quickly reflected in here, so we're tracking that on the backside. And then for every new agent, they're going to be part of the productivity coaching program, which is a more in-depth scoreboard, which I'll show you real quickly what one of those looks like, so you can see what we're doing with them. So if it's a new agent that's going to the productivity coaching program, one of the onboarding checklist items is, hey, let's get you scheduled with the productivity coach who's going to help you put together your business plan and your scoreboard. So the productivity coach then will come in here, and you can see this is Justin Yoder's scoreboard. Flip to his September scoreboard. And realistically, all we've done is expanded on the 4 conversations. You can see this is the 4th conversation, 3rd conversation. Then we've split up the 2nd conversation into just appointments. We're figuring out how many buyer consultations compared to signed agreements, how many listing consultations compared to listings. This isn't stuff that you're doing, but just so you know, with a new agent, to say, hey, we're going to get you connected with a productivity coach. So they're going to come in and we're going to build a scoreboard just like this for every one of them, where we can see instantly where they're at in relation to their goals. So for example, in the productivity coaching program, which we had just before this meeting, is we were able to go through with Justin and say, okay, your goal was 150 conversations so far this month. You're at 118. You had a goal of 3 buyer consultations. You're currently at 2. Listing consultations at 4. Goal of 4, you hit 4. We can take them through all the way how he's performing in relation to his goals, and now we have something to coach to. So this, again, is what the productivity coaching scoreboard looks like. So as you're meeting with a new agent, you can really encourage them to plug into the productivity coaching program and know that we're going to take them through and build this all out for them. Any questions on that?
So each one of those is built into, like, through the onboarding checklist. Is that right? Each one of these steps?
Yep, exactly. So it's in the onboarding checklist. Let's pull it up real quick. So right here. So this is the template for the onboarding checklist. And then actually, maybe I should do the one for, well, this is for the South Ogden office, so it won't be assigned to everyone in the legacy office, but the idea of it's the same. So part of the onboarding checklist is going to be coming down here and saying, the pieces of it are set appointment, enter goals into the CGI calculator. So that would be saying, okay, I'm going to sit down with the agent, get clarity on the 4 conversations, just like we did, get them entered into the CGI calculator. Or if you're saying, oh, it's a new agent and I know that the productivity coach is going to have this conversation, then you'd introduce them to the productivity coach. The productivity coach would then put together the goals, and then we're emailing the goals back over to the MCA for the MCA to go in and put them into the CGI calculator. So either way, between the MCA and the ASC, however you want to assign that in your office, is that this stays on the task list until their career growth initiative goals are put into the calculator in the system. so that we're watching that. So you can see appointment number 1, which I'm going to model the whole first onboarding appointment with you on Thursday, is getting them all entered into the CGI calculator, getting clarity on their goals, helping them understand what our value proposition is, all of that. And then there is one more piece about email productivity coach as well, to let the productivity coach know that the CGI goals were entered into the system. What questions does that spark as it relates to the 4 conversations?
I think we're good. I mean, I just was wondering at what point it's done, and to make sure that we're doing it consistently with each new agent, that there's a definite process and ownership and accountability to make sure they're getting the information that they need, so it's actually beneficial right up front.
Yeah, Matt, great point. So as you can see from the onboarding checklist, this is one of the very first things we do. And on the Career Growth Initiatives page, this is, if you come into here, that flyer that we just filled out is, you can download it right here. So if you're sitting down, a lot of times I'll just have this printed out where I'll sit down with the agent and just walk through it almost exactly like we just did. And that's what I'm using to put them in the Career Growth Initiative. Or for a new agent that's really going to plug into the productivity coaching program, is you can give the value proposition. We're excited to have you. Let's set up a meeting with the productivity coach who's going to walk through and teach you how to go through this process, so that we can build that scoreboard for them, where we're going to hold them accountable every week to their scoreboard. So if you have the only exception to that is if you have like a new agent that works during the days, and is only going to work on Saturdays or a couple hours in the evening, that can't come to the productivity coaching program, then the MCA or the ASC will still use this worksheet to walk through the 4 conversations to get clarity on their goals, make sure the agent understands the activities they need to be focusing on, and then getting their goals into the Career Growth Initiative. And then the big piece of this, again, is it's so easy for our staff, sorry if I'm making you dizzy, it's so easy for our staff to think that the Career Growth Initiative is, can you see my screen right now, or can you see me? I can't remember if I shared my screen.
I just see you.
Oh. This was the time you were supposed to chime in and say, hey, we can't see what you're talking. Let me go back here. Okay, so here with the Career Growth Initiative tools, this is one of the biggest mistakes even our leadership team makes, is we think the CGI is just the 4 conversations, or is just the Career Growth Initiative calculator, or the CGI calculator, where realistically that's only the first of the tools. So I don't expect you to know all the tools and know how to teach other tools up front. We're going to stack on top of this to where you can then show an agent, hey, let's figure out if you're, because all of a sudden you'll have an agent go, yeah, I'm behind on my goals. I need to figure out how to get back on track. More than likely, if they're in the productivity coaching program, the productivity coach is having these other conversations about their listings monthly, their pipeline. But it's critical for everyone on our staff to know how to have the conversations, and at least where to find the tools, so that we can point them in the right direction if they are a part-time agent, took a day off to come in, but they can't come to the productivity coaching program, or whatever that looks like. And then let me show you what the agent lore and the My Local Expert pieces look like, because this is another piece that's really critical. As you saw in our after transmittal meeting, we outlined all the evidence and statistic of how our office is doing, which is great, but it's critical that we give our agents the tools to go out and now tell the story to their clients, so that the clients are connecting the dots to say, oh, well, Justin Yoder, which is the productivity coaching program scoreboard I just showed you, is part of Keller Williams, and Keller Williams is outperforming the market by 25%. Okay, he must be a pretty dang good agent because he's with a great brokerage and they're outperforming the market, right? So it's really important for them to go show that evidence. So a tool that we have, and this is all downloadable from the website as well, right? I'll show you real quick down below. So there's, as you can see, like let me break this down a little bit, slow down a little bit. So the listing monthly tool right here, it's got a whole section now on the listing management piece. So what is it for individual agents? What is it for a rainmaker? So if we have a team in our office, so like Spring is the rainmaker for her team or the mega agent. So we use those terms interchangeably. So now she can go learn how to do listing management for her team, or if it's an individual agent, they can learn that. But there's training videos for every one of them on how to use that tool and how to input their goals into the CGI calculators and how to access the CGI calculator. The listings monthly tool, there's a video right here. How do I use the tool? What is the tool? Where do I download the tool? Right there. Pipeline. How do I use the pipeline? So here's a video on that they've prepared. I've also got a fundamental on how I recommend using the pipeline. And then they can download the tool here. The agent trend report, same thing, video, access to the report. So here, the next reports I'm going to show you are the lower report, the language of real estate, and the local expert tool. But there's videos on how to use them here. So these are very good resources for you to direct an agent to how to use those tools. But this one is very easy to put together for our agents to go out and tell the story. So there's this one's a simpler one that is the one that I usually recommend, because you can easily make this as like a social media post or an email or a mailer to your people. And it's a template that they can download where they can come in, put their picture, their contact information, a short bio about their value proposition, and then every month just come in and we actually give them these statistics. Remember at the end of the after transmittal meeting when I told you we come up with our 3 big wins? Generally what we're doing is we're giving those to our agents to turn around and put them into this document where they can go out and tell the story. So like an example when this one was put together was we outperformed the market by 20.9% in listings taken in May month over month. So I pulled this off of one of my old quarterly market updates because I had it in PDF. And then we outperformed the market by 20% in closed units year to date. So this tells a really quick strategic story of how we're outperforming the market, and it's easy for our agents to go tell the story. This one's a little bit more in depth, which our agents can use this quarterly or however much they want. But again, all this is in a PowerPoint presentation where they download it directly from that website, the CGI website. And they can come in here and put in the information of what is the median price doing? What are the days in the market doing? What's the month of inventory? And all this is very easy to update for them, and they can just quickly put in their information on this and make this as a mailer as well. So every couple of months, KW comes out with a new template, so it looks fresh and new, and they're all posted here for agents to pull them up and use. It really blows me away how many of our agents are either too lazy to do it or don't know, even though we've told them before, don't know that this is available. So a lot of times an agent's got to be in pain to be like, well, I don't even know what to tell my people, or I don't know how to tell them. All I do is instead of doing it for them, I log into the system, scroll down, and be like, hey, let's download this. Like, what do you think about the look of this? Does this look like something you'd send to your people? Awesome. Let's just put your information in. This is what it looks like. Now, can you commit to do that every month? They're like, man, that took 5 minutes. Yep. So this is the other piece of the career growth initiative tools of the agent trend, the lore report, and the my local expert. You can see kind of here across the bottom, it really is focused on what is your story, how are you telling your story, which is really about a combination of what is your unique value proposition supported by evidence. And that's a really key piece for our agents right now is the way business used to be done is I like you, you like me, let's give this a try. When really now it's like, great, we like each other, but now show me the evidence that you can do the things that you told me you're going to do. And that's where we use these tools, the local expert tool, the language of real estate tool, to say, okay, great, I told you these are the things I can do, and here's the statistical evidence of how that's showing up for other people that have hired me in the past. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So to wrap up the conversation in relation to the 4 conversations, here's a couple things that I'd like you guys to do. Is number 1 is I know is Lacey sitting there with you, Kara? Did she?
Yep, she's here.
Okay, awesome. So one of the things I'd like you and Lacey to do is role play this back and forth where one of you is a new agent and one of you is obviously you, and just walk through the math and everything on the 4 conversations just to practice that conversation. I'm going to model it again for you in the scheduled training on Friday, because I'm going to walk you through what that whole first appointment looks like, which part of that is the goal setting piece, but I'm going to model it a little bit more of like the questions that I asked to get a little bit deeper around, like help me understand why that's important to you, things like that, to kind of model exactly what I want that conversation to look like. It will help that conversation on Friday be a more powerful conversation if you've walked through this once or twice, to understand how in building the 4 conversations, it goes from right to left. And then as we track those conversations with an agent, we're tracking it. If we do the activities on the left, far left, we know the other ones are going to show up over time, if that makes sense. Any questions on the growth initiative?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, awesome.
Marcus, I just am wondering are we going to have a product coach in Layton or no?
Eventually, yes. Right now, so I got several agents in the Layton office that are plugging into the one in South Ogden because we've combined them.
Okay.
So the question is right now is we're really just finding the right person to take over the program. And what I envisioned for that program is we're going to have one coach for the 2 offices, but they run a program in South Ogden and they run a program in Layton. So either they keep the same days of Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they do it in the mornings in Layton and the afternoons in South Ogden, or vice versa. I just had to work out the kinks of the productivity coaching program to really make sure it's cranking and working right before I can hand it off to the right person.
I get you.
Okay. But for right now, one of the things I'd really love, and I'll be better about helping give you the evidence, is for you guys to help tell the story, because that's the biggest thing about the productivity coaching program for our staff is its leverage. Because if the productivity coach isn't having the conversations with new agents about how did your conversations go, who are you targeting, what does your pipeline look like, if the productivity coach isn't holding them accountable and having the conversations, then that burden falls on the staff, the agent services coordinator and the MCA, who, if you guys are having that conversation, it's pulling you off the other activities you should be focusing on. So one of the first questions you should be asking any new agent that comes and asks you questions, just like Robert Burbank came and asked you a bunch of questions, Lacey, one of the first questions that we should have asked him is, hey, are you plugging into the productivity coaching program? And like with him, he's like, what is the productivity coaching program? So we need to be able to give that value proposition. And just to give you guys an idea, let me show you the stats real quick on the productivity coaching program. And we'll put together a little flyer with this as well that you guys can put up. Okay. Just last month, in the month of August, the people in the productivity coaching program, which the majority of these are newer agents, they closed 20 transactions and together made over $183,000 in the month of August as a group. So
remind me again, is it free or are the agents paying for it?
Great question. So I don't want to tell them it's free because in their mind there is no value. The way I want to portray that is this is something the office is paying for you. So there is no charge to the agent. The office is covering the expense for the productivity coaching program. And so that, if we tell it a little bit differently of where we're paying for it, because it does cost us money. We used to charge the agent for it, but the thing I hated about it is the agents would get into the program, close 1 or 2 transactions, and then leave the program, and then their production would fall off. And so we decided as a leadership and an ownership group that we're going to pay for the productivity coaching program for the agents to come into the system, and but they got to lean into it. And then really we'll train in the new team leader on this as well. For our new agents, unless they're like a part-time agent or whatever it is, we're basically requiring them to go to productivity coaching. If they're not willing to go to productivity coaching, then we're probably not the right fit for them. Okay. Did that help with that question?
Yeah, definitely. We just wanted to know where we just wanted to create a consistency with the onboarding. So if this is the direction we're going, then we want to be able to push that the right way.
Awesome, love it. And then the real trick with this is I want you guys to be thinking about almost everything we train on. And my coach used to say this to me all the time, is a great front conversation eliminates any back conversation. And that's really what a couple really strong conversations up front through the onboarding process, if we do it right and help people understand what resources are available to them and where they're available, it eliminates the panic conversation of them coming in and showing up in your office unexpected and saying, I need help right now with this. But if we can train them up front of what are the things you should be focusing on, what are the resources available to you, then it really eliminates a lot of those urgent conversations of I need help now, I'm in a panic mode because I don't know where to go find this. So the three kind of tools we have in our back pocket, which I want you guys to utilize with almost every conversation that comes your way. If someone come and ask you a question about the CRM or whatever's coming up, kind of our trump all questions are, hey, where are you at with your 4 conversation goals? And if they're like, I don't know, be like, oh, then we need to reestablish or get clarity on what your goals are for the month so we can focus on the right activities. The other one is, are you currently in the productivity coaching program? So if they're like, oh, I don't know what to focus on, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say. Hey, are you currently plugging into the productivity coaching program? Because that's what they're talking about every single day, and they're crushing it. The agents that are plugging into that are crushing it. Why aren't you in that program? And then the third really leveraged piece is the fundamentals. So the savvyagent.biz fundamentals page, which let me see if I've got that pulled up real quick. The whole point of this page is leverage for our staff so that we can quit answering the same question over and over and over again. But we have a resource to send people to. But part of this is we have to be familiar with what they are. So like using Robert as an example, Lacey, that came and talked to you about, hey, I need some help with lead generation. I don't know where to be doing that. And you did it right. You said, let me find out and let me circle back with you. But had you known that on the fundamentals page, hey, here's a whole training specific to lead generation. Marcus walks you through exactly where you should be focusing on your lead generation efforts right now. Also, he teaches you how to organize your database through that lead generation. And then also here's a link to some scripts that will really work well in the market right now. Same thing with if someone's like, hey, I don't know how to set up an 8x8 or a 33 touch in eEdge. It's like, awesome, let's pull up the fundamentals together. Hey, go watch this 30-minute video. In that 30 minutes, Marcus sets up 3 specific drip campaigns. It's that easy in the system. Go watch the video, then circle back with me with questions, and I'll help you from there. Normally, they go watch the video, and they can do it from there by themselves. Here's the video on their pipeline, the multi-year trend report. So over time, I'd love for all of us to watch these so we know them and we know how to have the conversation. But more importantly, we can say with confidence like, oh, you want to learn more about how to use the phone app? Go watch Fundamentals number 8, and they'll teach you everything you need to know about our phone app and how to utilize it. Right? So we need to be familiar with these because they're a leverage piece for us so we can be focusing on the things that we need to be focusing on or what we already time blocked for and not getting sidetracked onto something else. Okay. What questions does that spark?
I don't think I have any right now. The only one last thing I wanted to ask about the program, is it something that starts on a certain day, or do you plug them in just as soon as the next Tuesday or Thursday class starts?
Yep, great question. So the Ignite program is sequential. So it has a start and an end date and a graduation. Productivity coaching is ongoing because there is no curriculum to it. We're coaching to the results. So they can plug in at any time, just so you understand the structure to it. Tuesdays right now we go over their scoreboard. So it's purely accountability to the scoreboard. And then Thursdays are script practice and objection handling. So we come in specifically with the agents are saying like, hey, I'm getting this common objection. How do we handle that? So we teach them a lot about how to put together and structure sentences in a way that they can handle objections and go for the close. So we practice on Thursdays.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, awesome. So this wraps up the conversation on career growth initiative. I want both of you to schedule a time in the next day or so for you to teach each other the 4 conversations. And then the other piece of that is I would keep on hand the picture of all the career growth initiative tools available, so you start memorizing what those tools are, so we know what the tools are ahead of us, whether it's the lower report, the multi-year trend report, but just being aware of the whole career growth initiative process and not just thinking it is the 4 conversations alone.
Okay.
Okay. And then just to confirm, our next training section is tomorrow morning at 10:30, and our focus is going to be on our CRM, our e-edge, our drip campaigns, what marketing's available, and everything like that.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, guys. If you guys are like me, as you get off the call today, you're going to think of 1 or 2 questions that you wish you would have asked. Let's keep an open dialogue going through this process. So reach out to me, ask questions as we're going, and we'll keep plugging in and stacking these things up.
Perfect.